Hello and welcome to part 4 of this 8 kilometre City of London Riverside photo run. This route goes from St Paul's Cathedral all the way down to London Bridge via the river. And we're just going to now start on the final leg, which will get us back to the Shard by London Bridge Station. Okay, so now the Elizabethan map that we can see shows us coming back past Old St Paul's down towards the river and then across what used to be the entertainment area of Southwark and finishing off just by St Olaf's Church, which is where London Bridge Station is today. The other map of the Victorian period shows St Paul's Cathedral as is, and then the route out towards the southern side, and that is a bit more industrious, as we can see. So all the entertainment area is gone and replaced by factories, and it will eventually bring you all the way down towards Southwark Cathedral, which is familiar to what we can see, and London Bridge and London Bridge Station. So towards the left hand becomes much more familiar. And again, looking at the solid blue line, you can see the route as we would manage it today. We can see St Paul's Cathedral, Millennium Bridge, and we're just following the right along the river path, which we follow all the way until we get down towards Cannon Street, and then we have to do a little dogleg through towards the Clink and then out through Borough Market and the finish. Okay, and this is the map that we can see, and so we cross and go to the left or to the right of the one new change, and as we get to the end we turn sharp right and then go into Festival Gardens with views of St Paul's Cathedral in front of us. The steeple, that looks like church on the right hand side, is in fact St Augustine's of Watling Street, which is now St Paul's Cathedral Choir. This church was destroyed in the Second World War. Okay, so I think at this point we probably need to say something about St Paul's Cathedral. So as I said earlier, it was built at the top of the hill, Ludgate Hill. It's the fourth church on the site, and there has been a St Paul's the Apostles here since 604, so it's a well-established site for the church, and it's home to the Bishop of London, and in terms of its denomination it's an Anglican church, which means it's Church of England of the Protestant Christian faith. The current building dates back to 1697, and it replaces the old St Paul's Cathedral, which was burnt down in the Great Fire of London. Now that cathedral was started in 1087, so not long after William the Conqueror landed, but it did take till 1240 for it to be finished and consecrated, whereas the new St Paul's Cathedral in 1669 took about 30 years for it to be consecrated, and another few years after that until it was finally topped out, as they say, and completely finished. And that was opened by Queen Mary, and then she's the queen who sits between the end of the Stuarts and the start of the Georgian period. St Paul's Cathedral that we see here was built by Sir Christopher Wren. Now, he was given the task of rebuilding 50 of the 87 churches that were burnt down and St Paul's Cathedral, which he duly did. And in terms of style, it's termed as Italian Baroque, as well as traditional medieval, with some Indigo Jones styling, especially on the inside. Now, there is also underneath St Paul's Cathedral a crypt, which actually goes the whole length of the church, which is quite unusual. The dome itself is very special. It's a double shell dome with a whispering gallery and a viewing platform right along the top. In World War II, it only just survived. It had 2 bombs dropped on it, fires ranging all around it, and it even had one massive unexploded bomb which landed on top of it, which was successfully defused, thankfully. And it was seen as a symbol of resilience during the Blitz in the Second World War. There's a few notable people that have been buried there, including Nelson, Churchill and Thatcher. But most of the marriages don't take place in St Paul's. They normally take place in Westminster Abbey. But Charles and Diana in 1981. That wedding actually took place there. Okay, so we're going to go past Festival Gardens, which is a relatively new garden from about 1951, to contrast the Festival of Britain that was taking place at the South Bank. And as we get to the southern end of St Paul's Cathedral, we're going to turn left down St Peter's Hill. And this will take you down towards Millennium Bridge, which you can see at the bottom, as well as Tate Modern. Now, as we cross Victoria Street, you'll see, if you just turn round, the College of Arms, which dates back from 1866, but was originally put in place by Richard III. Now, he was very keen on his legitimacy, so he started the heralds, or the coat of arms, to signify that he was the true king there. This is still going on today, so if you need a coat of arms, this is where you go. But they're also responsible for where flags can be flown and for conducting coronations and state funerals. The next thing we'll see is Millennium Bridge, and this is one of our newest bridges in London. It dates back to the year 2000, and it was open for 2 days and then closed because it suffered from some form of resonance, so it seemed to wobble a lot. So it took another 2 years to go and sort out the dampening of the bridge to get it correct. It's actually called the Blade of Light, was the design that won it, and it is a suspension bridge, but unlike suspension bridges you generally see, the cables go at the side, and this is to make sure that the view of St Paul's is not spoilt. For those who are Harry Potters, this is quite a Harry Potter section of London, because not only was Daniel Radcliffe, who played Harry Potter, a member of the school that we could see, but in the Half-Blood Prince, the bridge was destroyed by the Death Eaters. Now, assuming we can get across the bridge, we see in front of us the Tate Modern, which is a modern art building. It has a sister art gallery down towards Pimlico, which is Tate Britain. So this is modern art. It is in Bankside's power station, which this building here dates back from 1947. And it was converted into a gallery in 2000. There is another gallery that they've just opened, which is the Switch House, which is just behind that, which is 10 stories. Again, going up to the top of that, you see some good views of London. Coming onto the Queen's Walk again, we pass the Shakespeare Globe on our right-hand side. Now, this is based on the original globe that was here in 1598, but this one was only opened in 1997. So it's built of English oak. It's an open-air theatre, very authentic. And it's the only thatch building in London to be built since 1666, the Great Fire of London. And in its early days, it was so authentic, it didn't even have any lights or microphones or speakers. There are 3 areas. There's the Globe Theatre, the Playhouse, which is a candlelit Jacobean theatre to your right as you pass the Globe. And then there's the Shackler Studios, which is used for more education and rehearsals. Now, as we go past the Globe, we're actually on something called the Bankside. This was the entertainment quarter for the City of London. Generally, they were quite no-fun Puritans at the time, so they didn't allow much in the way of entertainment within the city walls, but the Bankside was outside their jurisdiction, which meant that everything thrived. So there was bear and bull baiting, there was theatres, which included the Globe, the Rose and the Hope, and all the other illicit activities that you could think of took place on this side of the river. It became known as having the liberty of the Clink, and what that meant was that this was actually run by, believe it or not, the Bishop of Winchester. Now, Winchester was very famous in Anglo-Saxon times because it was considered the capital for some of the Anglo-Saxons. But the Bishop of Winchester was considered at the time of the Elizabethans as being like the Chancellor of the Exchequer, but for the king, not the government. And the money he got from this area basically funded his lifestyle. As you see later, there is a picture of Winchester Palace, which was very grand at the time. Now, as we go along the route, we go under Southwark Bridge, which was originally called Queen's Bridge in 1819. but this current one dates back from 1921. Now as we go along there a bit further, we end up getting to the Anchor pub. Now this was a brewery in 1612, and it was also the place where Samuel Pepys, who was a great diarist at the time, was able to watch the Great Fire of London from relative safety. Later on it was rebuilt and became very famous for smugglers and pirates, especially in the 18th century. However, today it's revamped, so there's no real problems with that happening. As we go round the corner, we end up going down an alleyway underneath Cannon Street Bridge, and we will pass the Clink prison, which was a notorious prison from the 12th century till 1780. Going to the Clink is slang for prison, and its name is suggested to have originated from the sound of the clinking of people's chains. It met its demise during the Gordon riots in the late 1700s, and it was burnt down at that time. And it is now a museum. As we continue along that street, we pass the remnants of Winchester Palace, which I mentioned earlier, and then our next stop is at the end. You'll see a ship coming into view. Now this is the Golden Hind, and it dates from 1579, although this is a replica. It's called a galleon, and it is famous because it was sailed by Francis Drake, and he is famous for three reasons. The first, most popular reason, is that he was second in command for repelling the Spanish Armada in 1588 as it sailed up the channel, and for playing bowls just before the attack happened. He's also known for circumnavigating the globe, which he did earlier in 1578 to 80, and he went from Africa to South America on the east side, and then went all the way up the western side of South America through to North America, and went to California, got that for the British at that time, and then went across the Pacific Ocean, going through Indonesia, and then finally to South Africa, Europe, and then back to London. However, he was also a privateer, which at the time the sponsors, and other state sponsors in terms of the Queen, would allow him to engage in maritime warfare, mainly against the Spanish. And he was just so successful that in one ship he was able to capture the equivalent in today's value of about £450 million. And the King of Spain, King Philip, actually put a price tag equivalent to £6 million on his head. The ship that you do see there is a replica which was built in 1973, and in fact does sail. It sailed a distance of something like 140,000 miles, even went into San Francisco, and before coming back and going into dry dock here in 1996. As we exit the Golden Hind, we then come across Southwark Cathedral. There's been a church on this site since 1106. Originally it was the Collegiate College of St Mary, Overy and St Saviour's, but its structure today actually only dates back till about 1839, and it was only just made a cathedral in 1905, and it looks after the region of about 300 churches on the southern side of the river. The route we take is the southern side of Southwark Cathedral, as it sort of borders onto Borough Market, and we hug it all the way around the side until we come out onto London Bridge. Now Borough Market again is quite famous. It's been there since about 1276, although its location was actually nearer to London Bridge, or Old London Bridge, than it is now. But when the London Bridge was repositioned, the market got repositioned as well, and that took place in 1756. Now, although most people know it as a retail market open from Monday to Saturday for food, it is in fact still a wholesale market, but that starts at 2 AM during the weekdays. If you do go around it, you'll see there's a couple of oddities. There is an old frontage of the old opera house from Covent Garden, which seems a bit odd in the overall structure. And for those who do like Harry Potter, the Prisoner of Azkaban was also filmed within inside Borough, as was certain scenes from Lock, Stock and Two Smoking Barrels, which is one of my favourite films. Now, as we come up the stairs and cross the road, towards London Bridge. We go under the bridge and then take the first turning on our left, and that will bring us up towards the Shard. Now the Shard is the tallest building in the UK, and it's been there since 2012. In terms of height, it's 1,016 feet tall, or 309 metres, and the architect was Renzo Piano. It's a combination of hotels, offices, residentials, restaurants, and there's a great viewing platform which you can see about London from 800 foot high, as you'll see in some of the pictures that I've taken. However, the people from Yorkshire will be well pleased to know that it's not the tallest structure in England. That actually rests with West Yorkshire Emily Moore's transmitter, which is 68 feet taller at 1,084 feet high. So this brings us almost to the end of this 8-kilometre riverside photo run around the City of London. Now we end at London Bridge Station, which is one of the newest buildings in terms of its construction at the moment, from 2018. However, it is one of the older stations when it was first put together in 1836. So in summary, we've seen some of the main sites and some of the less known sites. We've seen the difference between the north and the south, the old and the new, and hopefully learned quite a bit about London history, and it's a lot more in-depth and available than you may otherwise think. So I hope to see you on some of the other longer runs that I have in this set of photo runs. Thank you.